Alright, so we got a 1994 running here with V6 3VZE engine, and we're going to do a fuel injector upgrade. Rocket Distribution's kit comes with the new intake manifold gasket that you're going to need, the plug adapters with new O-rings, and of course the remanufactured injectors. Let's go ahead and get started. First thing we want to do is disconnect the negative battery terminal. Alright, so we can see one fuel rail here. Now the other one for the other side of the V6 is underneath this intake manifold. So we're going to have to pull it off in order to get to everything we need. First thing we're going to do is get the breather out of our way. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark all these lines that aren't going to be obvious when I'm putting it back together where they go. I'm going to go ahead and mark them all so I can unplug them, and it'll be really quick putting them back. So I'm going to go ahead and remove them as I mark them, and we're going to go through here and get all the lines off. This is the cold start fuel injector. Gives it just a little more fuel on cold starts. Has nothing to do with what we're doing other than it's plugged in and in our way. I'm just gonna release the clip on both sides, and it unplugs. You can see that metal wire goes around there and retains it against those clips. Alright, when you have everything marked and removed as far as vacuum lines and cables that you can see up here that are going to be in your way, then we'll get the wrench out and we'll start removing all the stuff around it. There's a throttle cable. I'm going to remove the bracket that it's on so I don't have to mess with the throttle adjustment. Kind of snug in there. Alright. That's throttle cable out of the way. That, any of these specialty bolts I like to put back where they go, so I know that that's where it came from. Here again, we're just going to remove the bracket so that I don't have to readjust the linkage here. I'll put these back where they were. Just going to take this nut off here. Hopefully we can slide that forward. Should just be a flared fitting. And we also want to make sure this heat riser doesn't try to go with the manifold. So we gotta undo these bolts. Hopefully there's enough slack there. Alright, this is the fuel line going to the startup injector. So when we loosen this, we're going to want to put on our safety glasses and cover it with a rag. Alright, now we're going to remove the main bolts that are holding on the manifold. We've got 4 up top and we have 4 down low. Start with these. I think to gain some slack, we're going to have to remove these hoses. That flexible. They're flexible. Just not flexible. Remove this plug. It's going to be in our way. Coolant line to contend with. Now we can reach this hose and get it loose. I think we can reach it. There we go. Another coolant line. There's also this hose right here that's connected under there. I can't forget. Recording time. Okay. It's trying to tell me. Alright, with the upper half of the intake manifold out of the way, we can now access the fuel rail. Now we're going to have to just pull these bolts that are holding it in place, and then once we do that, we should be able to lift it up with the fuel injectors. There's a clamp over here I'm going to remove to give me some slack. Now if we separate these two fuel rails, it'll make this a lot easier. So there's this banjo bolt here and here connecting it, here and here connecting the two. So I'm going to disconnect these, and there's a copper washer in that setup, and it's good to replace them if you can. So I have some handy. You'll want lots of rags handy because there's going to be quite a bit of fuel still trapped in these fuel rails. With the fuel rails separated, now it's just a matter of unplugging the connections from the fuel injectors and figuring out the puzzle to get the rail out from around the wiring harness. Now if the O-ring doesn't come out with the old fuel injector, sometimes it's easier to just pull these plastic caps out and then you can pop the O-ring out from there. You just want to be sure you check this O-ring to make sure it's not compromised and then lube it before putting it back in so that it gets a nice seat. Alright, here are the two fuel injectors side by side. The old one next to the remanufactured one from Rocket Distribution. As you can see, the one we're putting back in has these 4 little holes that creates a good atomization. And the one on the left there, the old one, has the 2 little streams that come out. The better atomization is what makes this one superior over to the stock injector. And then with the new fuel injector, you can put the new O-ring, lube it, so that it will get a nice good seat. We just want a nice thin coat there so you're not chipping rubber away when you put it back in. Go ahead and seat the new injectors first. Take the protective cap off. Now if you notice, these plugs are different. That is why he has given us the adapters. Go ahead and plug into the fuel injector. Plug the other end in there. Alright. With all those in place, we can go ahead and put the fuel rail back in its spot. I'll place this back over and make sure it hits all the fuel injectors on its way down. Now we'll install the other one underneath the wiring harness again. Okay. Lower it down onto the fuel injectors. Make sure it is properly over all the new fuel injectors. Put our plastic spacers back in there. And cinch them down. Get our banjos back in place. On these banjo setups, you need a washer on both sides of that fuel line. And that copper smashing in between the bolt is what makes the seal. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to clean both surfaces of the intake manifold here. Don't want any crud in there. After the surfaces are all clean, can install the new supplied gasket. Alright, with the new gasket back in place there, we're going to go ahead and seat this back where it goes. Over there, last one we took off. We want to make sure this one gets put in the right spot before we can't reach it anymore. Okay, gotta make sure that rear hose in there isn't hanging you up. It's back on. It has to go on kind of at the same time as everything else is going on. Make sure all of our hoses are accounted for. Everything's going to be able to be placed back the way it's supposed to be before we cinch down the top half of this manifold. We check that one. He is seated. We check this heat riser connection. It will go. And this fuel line will go in there. So we can go ahead and put the bolts back. Just going to start them loosely. By hand. Make sure they're all seated properly. Reinstalling any brackets we had to take off, and right here is the fuel line. Don't forget to replace that. That goes to the cold start injector. Get our heat riser put back. Alright, just put these lines back in place. Get all of our lines put back where they go. Now we got our throttle cable. Run it through there. Up, around, down. Give it some gas. There we go. Get it clamped into place. Hook our integrated vacuum lines up to there. It's ready to mount back. Alright, now we got our extra line here. Run that through there.
Alright, get that connected back to the air box. We're almost there. Now, for these lines, we've got the electrical connection, and I've got all these marked. There we go. Plug in all the 4s. Okay, number 6. Got clamps back on. Done. Plug that in. Snap the ring back. There we go. Now, all we have to do is reconnect the negative on the battery terminal. And since the battery was disconnected for a while, the computer will be reset and it will relearn the new fuel injectors.
So the first start after this procedure will take just a little bit because you got to refill the fuel rail because we just got through emptying it. That wraps it up. Be sure to check out Rocket Distribution's eBay store, Injector Dying. Thanks for watching.